that and the trend line, that for me was a good confluence. So I took another position, got another 2 out, and I kept adding into the pot. Now I know these are only short-term trades, but if you can get in and out, over the weekend I've taken 18R out of the marketplace, which is, that's more sometimes than I'll do a week. Welcome back, team, to another trading breakdown. Today I'm going to talk you through some trades on Bitcoin over the weekend. Some really simple trading, really. Just playing with the daily ranges, the daily highs for the liquidity points. I wondered for a while why I kept missing out on trades, and since I've incorporated daily highs, weekly highs and lows into my trading, things have changed quite massively, really, and I'm getting into I would say twice as many trades with more success. So it's made a massive difference. Now, if you haven't done so already, please go over and check out the Instagram at StrongMoney4X. Seeing how I trade, please make sure you go and check it out. And as always, please make sure you like the video, place your comments below, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so I'm going to give you a kind of top-down analysis as to why I took this trade. It is a counter-trend play, but as you can see, with lots of confluences on your side, they can be really successful. So as we can see, price is clearly in an uptrend, and we've made some big strides this last week. Bitcoin's been heavily bearish for quite a while, and we're making some corrections. I don't think that the bearish trend is over, but we're certainly pushing bullish at the moment. This is a lovely accumulation here, and we're making some big bold bullish moves. So for the time being, we are bullish, but I would hazard a guess that we're probably going to reject this zone ultimately at some point. So I'm just kind of keeping an eye on that for the time being. So on the daily chart, as you can see, we have been kind of pushing higher, and this kind of turquoise blue line here, that was the weekly high, which you can see, we broke and we closed comfortably above. That was our previous weekly high, and it's very clear that the market is bullish. So I'm not fighting that too hard, even though this is a counter trend trade. I'm going to tell you why I took it. The momentum was clearly massive here, and then we've had this this pausing candle, where the momentum has slowed down ultimately. And so after a break of any kind of weekly high or daily high or any kind of major liquidity zone, obviously lots of sellers will place their stops above here. So we're likely to see some sort of mucking about, meandering consolidation before we ultimately push up again, or possibly break back in and push down for these lows. We don't know. Obviously, all we can do is react to what we see. So this break above, that I'm going to have eyes on it, and not necessarily like you would think just for more buys, but possibly for sells. So that was my first signal. And then on the hourly time frame, had where was I looking? So these white lines here, these are the daily highs. So that's the previous day, and that's the current day high and low. So this is the daily high from a couple of days ago. This is the daily high from yesterday, basically. So these are liquidity targets. Now, what we've seen here quite clearly is that, firstly, this nice push up, the low has coincided very nicely with the weekly high. So that daily low, you can see the white line there, okay, has used that weekly high as support. Okay, so we've clearly closed above that. There's no doubt about that at all. What I'd like to see when I was looking at this trade is this push up and break back down within that daily range. So that was, I think, Friday's daily high, okay? So price is pushed up and it's broken back down into there, which for me is a good sign that we're going to have some sort of retracement. Now, my previous entries were always either accumulations or distributions, so I'd be looking for something like this to happen. And I'd see these patterns occur all the time and just, always get a bit frustrated that I couldn't get into them. And this is the reason why. What I was missing out on is that price isn't going to give you always that perfect entry. And actually, there's resting liquidity above these daily highs that when it's taken, people take profits, people get into the market early, and it's a good opportunity to make some short-term plays down to these key support areas. We see we have this demand zone here, which is sat just above the daily low, just above the weekly high. So that, for me, when I saw this price breaking down, this for me was a clear indication that the likelihood is we're going to go, bearish. Now, I took a couple of positions. I also took a little position in here, which we did take some profits out of. I think I got my 2R out of it, and then it ended up just being break even. So I took that off ultimately. But whereas before, I'd be wanting to see that kind of liquidity grab move, and then the breaker structure, and then the reversal. So I was looking for that kind of action, and I was missing out on it. What's happening here on the bigger time scale is price has taken the liquidity. So that raid that I'm looking for of those highs before the breaker structure, that's happened here because it's broken that daily high. So all I really need is an intermediary kind of breaker structure, which is what price has given me here. And all the other elements are there, as you can see. Okay, we've got the breaker structure. We have a nice imbalance. We've had a return to order. And, you know, ultimately this trade is good to go. And previously I was missing out on these trades because I wasn't incorporating the fact that these daily highs and weekly highs, them themselves are liquidity points. So I'm looking for these big raids to happen, but ultimately you don't need it. You know, these zones in themselves are good enough, and the likelihood of price coming back once it closes back below this daily high, the likelihood of having some sort of action down to, you know, at least here is particularly high. And you know, over the weekend Bitcoin does get weaker, markets are closed, people sell their positions on Friday, so Bitcoin, just as a bit of a tip, will generally go down at the weekends. That's something just to watch out for. But ultimately it was really simple, and whenever I saw kind of any more liquidity building up on either side of the marketplace, it was just giving me all the signals that I'm looking for. This kind of breakdown in structure, these further breaks of the lows, you know, all of these gave me signals to get into them. Now, it was a fantastic weekend. Ultimately, we took 4R off that plus a 2, so that's 6R. We took a 2R off that plus a 2, so that's 4R. When I say plus a 2, it's because I take 2 positions. One comes off at 2 and the rest comes out at my target, basically. So that's a 6, that's a 4. My break-even trade there got to the first entry, so that was a 2, so that's another 2. This one got to 2.2, and then I think we took it all out. Oh no, of course, yeah, because that was the target down there. So we took all the position out there. So all in all, this worked out about 17R on these 3 trades. And then I was talking to my team in the Discord group, which, like I said, you can become a part of if you send me a message on Instagram. I was talking to my team, and you know, I kind of predicted this kind of motion to reject this, and you know, it worked out pretty perfectly, almost in line with the line that I drew. And again, it's another miniature one of these. So that in itself is a raid. We've got the minor change of structure, or change of breaker structure, chock, whatever you call it. If you drop down on the lower time frame, that would be there you go, you can see it there. Okay, you get that change of structure there, and you know, it's another very simple trade. Nice safe stop. You've got this daily high, which, you know, adds protection as well, because remember, these liquidity points, you know, we talk about daily, we talk about protected highs and protected lows because of supply zones. So demand zones and supply zones, the low of them becomes protected, because if price is in an uptrend, you know, it shouldn't be able to, you know, break below this, because the institutions will ultimately, they'll lose money. So they protect this, and they won't allow price to come and do this, because they then lose loads and loads of cash. That's kind of how we plan our trades. Well, these act as the same. Okay, we know now that this zone here, this liquidity daily high here, this has acted as support, and support turns resistance. You know, whilst the kind of the normal understanding of support and resistance is not something I trade, not something I will look at, there is some element of truth to it. And there are very successful traders that trade support and resistance very well. So, you know, you can use a pinch of that as a confluence. And for me, I know that this trend line now is being respected. Okay, again, I will ultimately wait for that trend line to be broken for me to get into my bigger trade up to here, of course. But for now, this trend line is being respected, so that gives me some protection. And also, you can see how price is kind of bouncing, and you know, this high here, which cleared liquidity, then broke back in. This is a level that people are paying attention to in some way or another. You know, they're buying from it, they're selling from it. Here, underneath that and the trend line, that for me was a good confluence. So I took another position, got another 2 out, and you know, I kept adding into the pot. Now I know these are only short-term trades, but if you can get in and out, you know, over the weekend I've taken 18R out of the marketplace, which is, you know, that's more sometimes than I'll do a week. It's definitely more than I did a couple of weeks ago. So it's been a fantastic weekend. I hope that's giving you some understanding of how to use these zones. What I'm really looking for with these daily highs and daily lows is I'm looking for a break, I'm looking for a close, and then rather than waiting for this perfect kind of, you know, ski slope style break structure retest, you don't necessarily get that all the time. I mean, you kind of did have it here, but what we're not in is we're not in a higher time frame supply zone, which is what I would have previously been waiting for to get into. So I don't need that supply zone anymore to enter into this trade. Instead, effectively what I've got is I've got this zone above here, which is validated by the push down, and that area between that daily high and that daily high is now acting as a resistance to the market pushing any higher. So I can look for a trade, whereas previously I would have just ignored this. I can now look for a trade, try and get into it, and ultimately you end up hopefully taking some profits out, which we did. I'm so sorry, team. As you can see, my camera froze throughout that, so apologies you haven't been able to see this beautiful face of mine. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, feel free to head over to the Instagram, ask me any questions. If you're struggling with your trading, do make sure you check out this next video. This next one includes lots of my secrets of how I trade and what I'm looking for, and I promise you this, watch this video in full and you will become more profitable.